Hriman, and I'm speaking to you from the beautiful and sacred Blue Lotus Temple in the town of Bothell, Washington, just north of Seattle. I'd like to read to you a poem, as I have been doing in recent weeks in these broadcasts, and this poem by Yogananda is called The Candle of Peace. It was first published in his magazine, Inner Culture, in May of 1933. And it goes as follows. Take the bowl of my mind and fill it with thy understanding. Take the bottle of emotion and fill it with thy mercy. Take the empty basket of my soul and fill it with thy fragrant wisdom. Use my life's vessel to dip cupfuls of thy love and pour them into the desire-parched throats of others. Break the walls of my love and flood me with thy omnipresence. 'Tis the streak of love's dawn peeping through the little opening fissure of my heart, which bespeaks of the sunlight of thy love spreading over the dark dungeon of my indifference. The darkness of my love is lit by the gentle luminosity of thy love. The empty hall of my soul is illumined by the light of thy Spirit. Thou art the life behind my body, the intelligence behind my mind, the love behind my feeling, the wisdom behind my ignorance. With the little taper of my love I may read thy golden book, which lay age-long hidden in me. Thy love has been the invisible candle of peace, dispelling my darkness and showing me thy secret passages and messages written on the pages of all hearts. Really, this is the core theme of Vedanta, the core theme of metaphysics, the core theme of the basic precepts of the ages and of the sages, which is, we are not what we seem. You know, I had a question, I guess. Somebody wrote in and asked, I've been trying to practice unconditional love to my, I think it was the person's relatives or something, associates, friends. But people seem indifferent, or they seem to not appreciate, or even worse, my love. People speak of, the questioner went on to say, people speak of the need to maintain boundaries and the need to acquire or promote or practice self-love. And this is a common question. And it's a very nuanced reality that we face. We are one. We are not what we seem, as I started by saying. Therefore, unconditional love is the practice we should affirm. No question about it. The problem has to do with my boundaries, my, quote, self-love, not that of other people so much. If when I give, I am hurt in some way or another by how people respond to me or are indifferent, then it is I who have the boundaries. It is I who have not yet acquired unconditional love. You think of maybe Jesus Christ, as the Christians would put it, dying for our sins, suffering on the cross, as they like to say, and yet saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In other words, unconditional love has to be unconditional so far as we are concerned. And there's another aspect to it, which is not as, it's really always about us. I say that with tongue-in-cheek, meaning our response to the world, to circumstances, is the measurement of our unconditional consciousness. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the second stanza defines this unconditional state called yoga It defines omnipresence. It defines oneness by saying it's measured and achieved by the degree to which we do not react to outer circumstances. We do not react even to the thoughts that we have, to the emotions that we feel. Now, tricky thing with this, everyone practically says, well, what would that mean? I'd be an automaton, a moron, a robot? No, not at all. It just means that we're not reacting from the point of view of my separateness, my awareness of the differences, my awareness of the separateness. It's not that we lack feeling. Feeling is sort of programmed into the consciousness of oneness. We often hear that God is love. We don't really know what that means, and I'm not going to explore that right now. But what I'm going to say is that as God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. What I'm going to say is that the very nature of consciousness is not bereft of feeling. Feeling and consciousness, feeling and perception are one and the same. Well, they're differentiated when they become manifested, but they are essentially in their, or put this way, in their essential nature, they are one. The feeling of my own consciousness. It may not bubble up with joy when we encounter just that feeling, that awareness, I should say. But as we go deeper into pure awareness, for example, in meditation, but there are other circumstances too, then we cannot separate the feeling. And so long as we are reacting to outer circumstances, reacting with like and dislike, etc., to our own emotions and memories, etc., thoughts, then we have established the boundary. So I was going to say that a secondary aspect of the question of boundaries and self-love has to do with the modern term concept of enabling. Let's say we're practicing unconditional love, we're stepping in and helping a person, but maybe we're enabling a person to remain stuck in their apathy, in their indifference, in their grief, whatever it might be. And so we want to unite our wisdom with our compassion. You see, Jesus said, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So we need to bring together our discernment of what is needed, let's say by another person, and how we can help that other person. Commonly we say around here that if someone is drowning and you don't know how to swim, you don't jump in the water and drown with them. You throw them a rope. And so our unconditional love, compassion, etc., needs to be tempered by wisdom. You know, you can give a dollar, if you have $1 million, you can give $1 to every homeless person, 1 million homeless persons, but it's not really going to help them very much, is it? And so this is the question of boundaries. Now, self-love is another subject of sort, and it only plays into this question of self-giving and helping other people only from the standpoint that some of that helping of other people, some of that compassion for other people comes from a deficiency in oneself, an inadequacy in oneself, a need perhaps for approval for oneself. And so to the extent that you're on empty, your effort to give is not genuine. If the feeling of inner security, the feeling of love without attachment, love without condition, love without objects, the feeling of joy and fulfillment and wisdom, all these different things. If your tank is full, then, and you have access to the source, you can give not as a doer, but as a channeler, if you will, as a channel for giving. So self-love is a little bit of a different topic. We've gone through movements in our culture about self-esteem, these kinds of things, and they have their value, of course. But let's just say this: you cannot give that which you do not possess. And so this question of how to give, when to give, who to give, etc., all has to do with the connection between feeling loving, but also having the discernment, the wisdom to know how to manifest and when and to whom and in what way. So it's an important question that got asked, but it's very nuanced, as I said in the beginning, and it really helps to be around people who demonstrate the wisdom of giving, the wisdom of unconditional love. Yes, Jesus said, turn the other cheek, and if somebody asks you to walk a mile, walk 2 miles, and all these other things, but there is another side to it. It's not that you're a doormat. It's not that you're, going to get crucified and that's going to be your saving grace. Jesus crucified because he was complying or reflecting the will of his Father. And he was willing to do whatever was asked of him because he was filled with grace. Not an easy answer, not a simple answer that I'm suggesting to you. But it does suggest that if you take the term self-love and you just sort of get rid of it, it does suggest that we need to be the change. This is where meditation and prayer are the basis, the foundation for how we work in the world, how we serve in the world, how we share, and how we love. I'll end with the thought from the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna speaking to Arjuna, in which he says that it is better to fail in your own duty than to succeed in fulfilling somebody else's duty. It may be somebody else's duty to help that person or their child, and not yours to go in and rescue people all the time. Not easy to know. Even Krishna admits in the Gita, it is not easy to know what is right action. In fact, it goes on to say that it's usually not until you see the consequences of your action that you can really see if it was right. And that's where, people in the success field talk about the need, not the need, but the reality that you'll fail 1,000,000 times before you're successful. It's just the way it is. Keep trying, keep learning. Joy and blessings to you.